with us. Brother Joe, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Pretty good. Not bad. I'm wearing my Seattle Kraken T-shirt in
awesome.
commemoration of the sports show today. But glad you're with us here. Recent travels, yes?
Yeah, I went to Minnesota, and they have this grocery store there called Aldi.
Yes,
have you ever
they
heard
do.
of it?
Oh, yes.
It's like the cheapest grocery store in the nation. And I don't think they could survive here in Hawaii somehow. But my wife went bonkers there. She's just conditioned to whenever there's a sale, fill up her grocery cart. So I think we just filled up every grocery cart in the store there. I said, you can't take all this food home. But, it just reminded us how low the cost of living is on the mainland compared to here. Although they think it's high, which is funny.
Yeah.
But, the cost of living goes down by half or even, 3/4. And if you move to the mainland, your salary might go down by 20%. So you still win in the long run.
Right, right.
And that's something a lot of people here have to stomach, and think about. But yeah.
Yeah, trying to make that lateral move. I mean, Aldi's, by the way, they have everything. And my mom used to shop there and buy wine, which was interesting. You weren't quite sure exactly, but it was only $1.49 a bottle. So you kind of it didn't
somehow
matter.
It tastes better. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, once again, very quickly, tell us about Grassroots Institute of Hawaii.
Sure. We're a nonprofit research organization that focuses on individual liberty, economic freedom, and accountable government. And so we're government watchdogs.
We appreciate you very much because in the days in which we have lived and continue, we desperately need this information. I'd like to start with Governor Josh Green.
Sure.
245 initiatives that reached his desk. Some are signed, some are not. However, there's one area, and if I have a conniption fit, I want to let you know it's my personal opinion. I don't want to drag Joe into some of my angst, but it has to do with affordable housing and the myriad of bills, now acts, that Governor has supported. I just want to go through the premise of this. I was looking at the contents, and a lot of it, most of it, has to do with support. I get it. Has to do with support for housing, has to do help those who are unable. I maintain that there are others of us that struggle. As you indicated, cost of living issues. And it's interesting that when you speak with some folks, survival is the benchmark. Just get by, and you're doing great. We have somewhat of a mentality that says if you can just get to the next day, you're lucky you live paradise. I have a big issue with that. Can you walk us through some of the affordable housing initiatives that have been signed, and please cut to the chase? Just how much money are we spending of the public's taxes for affordable housing?
Well, this year it's about $500 million, about $500 million for affordable housing.
Yeah.
That's in one sense good because you think, okay, well, they're going to finally build housing. But then, we've heard this before. Like last year, they spent $1 billion on affordable housing. And, we're scratching our heads hoping and waiting for those chickens to come home and roost. But anyways, these bills were designed to provide more subsidies and more housing projects. They say that they're also designed to clip regulation, but it's less of a clip and more of a snip in some places. So now one of the bills was the Singapore leasehold bill. It's a trial project. It's about 10,000 units. This is basically the government is owning the land, and if you buy it, you don't really own it. You own it, in a sense, for 99 years, but you can't pass it on to your children. And it's hard to build wealth on that. I mean, think about any business owner will tell you a lot of the capital that they came up with to invest in their first business was from their house. That was their asset, and they could borrow against it and use that for a down payment or for an investment elsewhere. And it helps them move up the housing ladder. To what you're saying, one perspective of housing is if we can just get people to survive, right, then we've accomplished something. But the other perspective is there's this whole housing ladder. And, people, when they buy their first house, then after a while they move into their second house and they might sell the first house or they might keep it. And it's a ladder that leads to more prosperity for individuals. It's just like my wife and I. We've got a little 1-bedroom house, and we have a 2-year-old daughter. It's like time to get 2 bedrooms, right? But should we sell the first house or keep it? I don't know. But anyways, we're on our way up the housing ladder,
right?
And so part of these leasehold properties, the problem with them is sometimes they lock people in the home. There's no really incentive, and you can't really borrow against the home and everything and move up the ladder. So, that's a long-winded way of saying there's some problems with that program. But, it's a trial run, so we'll see what happens. Then there's Act 94 is a return to home pilot program for the homeless that got lumped in with the bills that were signed yesterday. Basically, there's this idea that homeless people are being sent here from other states, and so now we're going to send them back. So I've never seen any hard data on how many homeless are coming to Hawaii from other states, although I do know that it is happening. But anyways, that's an interesting program. We'll see what happens there. And then there's another one, Act 98, which is a rental supplement. So in all, this is supposed to create 60,000, affordable homes, but we'll see.
It's in Act 68, the Hawaii State Supplement Program is specifically targeted to those of 62 years and above. And the intent is to stave off, for those that are struggling, stave off, subsidize, make sure that they have housing. I get it. I'm 62 in November. I would love to have some subsidy for my house payment, but none.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the ideology that says, if you do not have, we will give, and if you have, we will give yours?
That's right. I mean, Hawaii has the highest welfare benefits in the nation. When it comes, if you compare our welfare and subsidy benefits to all other states, we give out the most. But there's a principle in economics: is what you pay for, you get more of. And so, if you pay for homeless, sometimes you get more homeless. If you pay people who are disadvantaged, sometimes you get more people who are disadvantaged. And so, wishing upon the government genie, sometimes you get your wish, but there's also a bad thing that comes with that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I know that there's a lot that we can cover with this, and we'll continue to do so. But thank you for establishing in the last 2 years that our state government, our local government, has expended $1.5+ billion for affordable housing.
And that's just the state, too.
And that's just the state. Yeah. And then if I can transition to homelessness, same kind of question. Over the past 2 years, as a good range, how much have we expended under the banner of homelessness and in conjunction with the number of chronic homeless individuals that have been identified and the latest PIT?
Yeah, I don't have those numbers at my fingertips, but I do know, I did look at the trend lines of them, and actually the homeless count, the point in time count, is going down over time. 2016, we had the highest homelessness rate in the nation. If you remember down in Kaka'ako, the waterfront park, there was they took pictures of that. It was like, on the New York Times or Wall Street Journal and all that. And the homeless situation seems to be getting better and better. At the same time, though, those point-in-time counts are sometimes dubious. It sometimes depends if it rains the day that they count the number of homeless there is. So even the people who put those numbers together sometimes are cautious about them. But if you take it at its face value, it seems to be getting slightly better.
So I'm going to say one thing and we'll move on, because there's a homeless service center that just opened up down the road from us. It's been on hold for about the past year. However, there was a statement that was made by Dr. Jim Ireland of the city, who said as soon as somebody walks through the door, we're going to be able to help them the rest of their lives. And that's a quote that I found in a news report. I shudder at this, that it is lifetime support and subsidy. There's no temporary. It's not just a safety net. It is a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, I can't really wrap my feeble head about or around this idea.
Well, and the other piece of this is, even if you want to help the homeless in Hawaii, it's hard because of government regulation. I mean, the governor just built his homeless kauhale near Queens Hospital, and that's a good thing. I have seen a lot of homeless out there, and I hope this helps. But he had to waive many regulations and restrictions in order to build those homeless kauhales. Remember, he issued a homeless proclamation, an emergency proclamation, which was supposed to waive a bunch of 22 different regulations that get in the way. If we've got 22 regulations that get in the way, why do we need an emergency proclamation? Why not just cut those regulations outright? And so we're doing actually some research about that. We've got our team of researchers at Grassroots Institute working on answering that question, and we'll be back when we have an answer for you about that more, like which regulations are we talking about here.
It is 8:49 in the morning. How can we connect with Grassroots Institute of Hawaii?
Go to grassrootinstitute.org, and actually, if you're on Instagram, go to Grassroots Hawaii. We just passed 10,000 followers on Instagram yesterday.
Oh, excellent.
So we're doing a lot of fun stuff there, too.
Really appreciate that. The Honolulu Rail.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The debut is a week from tomorrow.
That's right.
However, there is still, the internal machinations of this project. What is emerging is more expenditures.
Well,
can you share, please?
We have to take a step back and always remember where this project came from. 2007, they said it was going to be $2 billion, $3 billion.
$3.7 billion, I remember.
And then it went, now it was up to $12 billion, and then it went back down to $10 billion because they, aren't going all the way to Ala Moana now. But that is a huge overrun. It's supposed to be done in 2019. Now it's going to be done in 2031, although they're opening it, So we also have to think of it in that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And all this time, it's been racking up all this debt. And that debt, it is, a problematic for the city because they don't want their bond rating to get hit. We actually have a debt limit in the city of Honolulu, where it says if you have too much debt, then it's not allowable to take on more debt. But the problem with that is they exclude rail from the debt calculation. And the reason they do that is so that they can get a more favorable bond rating.
Mm-hmm.
But the rating agencies, Moody's, just said, hey, we see that debt that you're sweeping off the books. We're counting that too. And so they downgraded Honolulu's credit rating. And so, now that means our interest payments are going to go higher. Interest rates are already going up, and they're taking out even more debt now, $200 million more that they're asking for. It's kind of like a credit card. You don't want to pay all this interest. And that's what we're doing. We're paying $100 million a year just on the interest, just on the debt service.
Debt service, yeah.
And so, now think about the cost of maintenance and upkeep of the rail too. That's over $100 million too. So, this is a really expensive project, and the debt portion is, what I think they should do is they should make a policy where it includes that debt in the debt limit calculation, and that would actually put a cap on how much debt they could take out, which would protect taxpayers because they're the ones who are going to be hit in the long run.
So just an editorial comment on my own. I will fit into a pair of 32-inch waist slacks before that even is conceptually possible. Because what you've demonstrated and over time with reporting on this issue is that it is not the stewardship of the taxpayer. It is the full funding to ensure that forward progress occurs. Now, it's culminating, of course, with this Friday. But please, all of our friends understand, first of 3 phases, decades behind and billions ahead.
That's right.
That gap of over $5+ billion that is acceptable as the wash fund or whatever it is should not be lost on us. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, and also, they increased the ticket price. It used to be $1.50. Now it's $3 per ticket. But think about what taxpayers are paying. That $3 that you're paying for a ride on the rail doesn't actually cover the cost of your trip. If you think about what taxpayers are paying as part of that, they're paying $15. So for every $3 ticket that you buy, taxpayers are paying $15 for the operation, construction, and upkeep of the rail. And so, that's like, more than double, triple, quadruple, quintuple the cost of the ticket. And it makes it, the rail is one of the most expensive rail projects in the world. It's the most expensive light rail project in the nation per capita, and in the world when you measure longer projects like over 5 miles. This is the most expensive project in the world in some ways, and taxpayers are paying for it. They call it Skyline right now, but my wife said they should have called it the rail, the bus, the rail, or maybe the boondoggle. Yeah.
Boondoggle. It is already 8:54 in the morning. I got to see just how much time we have. Just a few moments remaining. Not that there's intentional linkage, but I'll bring up 2 words that could cause all of us to have a flashback, and that is Aloha Stadium.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Aloha Stadium. It's funny that there is a linkage, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The rail goes to the Aloha Stadium. And so if you ride it on next Friday, then the line will go all the way there. The problem is there's nothing to do there. They're blowing it up, right? And I made a little TikTok, Instagram video that blew up where, it shows someone saying, where am I, they're opening the rail. And then the person rides all the way to the stadium that's just getting demolished. But it is getting demolished, and they're thinking about building another one in its place, right? That's supposed to cost, it was going to cost $800 million, which, makes me think, is this another rail? Is it going to crack the billion mark? But the governor now chopped that in half. He said, no, we're going to only spend $400 million on it. Okay, that's good. But they also had to chop the number of seats way down too. So now it's only going to have 20,000 seats. But think about Ching Field, which is, over by the University of Hawaii. That's already built, and it has 17,000 seats. So, and they're hosting the Rainbow Warriors. And so it begs the question, why do we need the Aloha Stadium at all when we already have this other field that has, pretty much the same amount of seat space? So is this just going to be another waste of taxpayer dollars? And we're getting used to it at this point. So lawmakers say that we need the stadium to build housing. We need the stadium to build business. But if you want to build housing and business, then just build housing and business. You don't need this other taxpayer add-on. And so, which would be a lot easier to do if we cut regulations. Now, I know that they're, pulling the ripcord on subsidies and spending too. That's one way to do it. But as I said before, it's similar to, here's a brick wall. Now we're going to pay you a bunch of money to try to get through it. Just get rid of the brick wall. And there's more than enough investment capital to do to improve our business and housing situation.
We have about a minute remaining, which is plenty of time to opine and report about Honolulu City Council raises.
Not enough time, but those raises are to go up on July 1st. It's a 64% pay increase. The council is going to $113,000 a year. The mayor is $209,000 a year. That's the highest paid council in the state. And the basis for that was because they say we're a full-time council, but they're a full-time council because they act like a full-time council. I didn't ask them to act like a full-time council. Just because I don't want them to be busybodies. Actually, I want them to work part-time. There's no evidence that a busybody council produces better results. Especially if they're passing laws and regulations to get in the way of progress. So actually, I like the part-time council concept, and let's stick to that. But anyways, this is going through.
How do we connect with you, Joe?
grassrootinstitute.org, and you can get on our email list and find out more about waste, fraud, and abuse in Hawaii, and how to build a better Hawaii too.
And there we go. Joe Kent, thank you so very much. Can't wait till the next time.
Thanks so much, Rick.
Thank you, Joe.